This is a story that happened to me last year in March. I use Twitter all the time, and it's still my favorite website app to this day. I would always talk to a certain group of people in a group conversation. These people were my only friends, really. I had no friends in school, which probably explains why I was on Twitter so much in the first place. Anyway, there was a girl in our group of friends we'll call Olivia. She was the kindest person I had ever met on there, and as you might expect, I did develop feelings for her at the time. She was, however, dating a different guy online almost every month. She was never interested in me either. For a little while, she was dating this one guy that lived in the UK. Let's call him Jake. He was very controlling over her, always telling her that she was not allowed to talk to anyone else, and making her send him screenshots of her text messages, Skype messages, and Twitter messages every night. She didn't really listen to him though. She kept our group messages hidden from him whenever she sent the screenshots over. For whatever reason though, everyone else in our group beside me seemed to really like this dude, and she was madly in love with him too. I talked to her privately a few times before all of this and confessed my feelings for her. I wouldn't have done that if I knew what was coming next though. Somehow Jake found out I had told her that I liked her. I woke up one morning to a bunch of notifications on my phone. All of them tweets from him and his best friend. They were tagging me in a bunch of tweets to each other, saying how I'm a piece of trash and how I'm just a kid, dying for attention. I unlocked my phone and tweeted something along the lines of, "I don't know what I did to you guys, but you could stand to be a bit more mature about all this. Maybe message me directly or something." They both proceeded to message me privately almost immediately. I blocked Jake's friend though, since he wasn't really that involved in this. When I checked the messages from Jake, he was just telling me over and over how he was going to kill me for harassing his girlfriend. I told him that the incident had taken place quite a while ago. I hadn't harassed her at all. In fact, I'd barely talked to her since they'd started dating. The next part is what really made me scared though. His next message said, "Your address is this, right?" followed by a picture of my actual house. I blocked him and took my phone outside. I grabbed a hammer out of my garage and broke it to pieces. I'm not sure why I decided to do this. I guess in the heat of the moment, it made me feel a lot more safe. I mean, there's no way he would actually come to my house, right? I was most definitely wrong about that. About a week and a half went by, with me not using Twitter at all, or any sort of technology for that matter. The thought of this guy finding my address was horrifying enough, but one night, the night after my birthday, I was home alone. It was just me and my cat, and nobody could protect me from what was coming next. It was about 7 p.m., and everything seemed fairly normal. I was laying in bed reading some manga when I heard my kitchen window shatter. I closed my bedroom door and locked it, and waited there silently. Then though, I heard someone shout from the bottom of the steps, "Hey Tyler, I know you're up there. So what were you saying about not harassing my girlfriend?" I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing. Did Jake really come to my house because of this? Did he really just break in? I heard something grinding on my railing. It sounded like he had a weapon of some sort on him. This psychopath came to my house to kill me. Well, remember when I said I'd smashed my phone earlier? Me too. Maybe not such a good idea in the first place. When he started pounding on my bedroom door, I opened my window and climbed out onto my roof. I jumped down to the ground. Thankfully, it was not a very high jump, since the part of the yard I jumped off into was kind of raised off the ground a bit, connected to these steps that lead to the back alleyway. I ran up those steps and into the alley, running as far as I could, until I found someone. I ran into my neighbor who was out walking her dog. I was out of breath, but told her that someone had broken into my house with the intent to kill me. She handed me her cell phone, and I called the police and told them what happened. The woman on the line said they would be there shortly. Only a scant 2 minutes later, I heard sirens coming down the street. My neighbor and I slowly walked toward my house, where a police officer greeted us. I explained the whole story to him, and he told me they'd found Jake in my bedroom, spreading cat's blood all over the wall. I never cried so hard in my life. It turns out Jake didn't even live in the UK. He lived 4 hours away from me. I never told anyone what happened, especially not Olivia. I never even spoke to her or my group of friends after. Since then, I've moved to a much safer area, and I now live across the street from a police station. My advice to those listening is to be careful who you tick off online. If someone really wanted to, they can get more information on you than you can imagine. Also, if someone ever finds your address and threatens to kill you, tell somebody immediately, and don't just smash your phone like a moron. Even if they sound like they're joking, you never know who's serious or not. First off, I'm a girl, and I'm roughly 5'3" tall. I'm not exactly anyone famous. I don't really have a social media following at all. The only reason I have a Twitter account at all is so I can follow celebrities and TV show crew accounts that I like. I have very few actual friends on there, mostly just a couple of family members, maybe a couple of people from school and some rando followers here and there. Anytime I get a new follower, I like to check them out. If they look like spam, I just block them immediately. This story happened a little over a year ago. I should also say that I'm married and have a child, so I'm definitely not looking for any type of relationship. Anyway, on to the story itself. One afternoon when my son was at school, I was on the phone browsing through Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I was a full-time college student, and I was on break at the time. I was a little bit bored. I didn't really know what to do with myself. I had already cleaned, done all the chores, had dinner cooking in the crock pot. I didn't really have anything else to do. While browsing through Twitter, I got a notification that I'd received a new message. This was strange. I didn't really speak to anyone on Twitter, nor did I really tweet anything out either. I didn't see any reason for someone to want to talk to me. Anyway, I opened it and figured it was probably just a spam message. It was someone that said, "Hello, how are you?" They didn't have a profile picture, and they had very few followers as well, and minimal tweets too. When it comes to social media, I know better than to talk to strangers, especially someone you don't know. Furthermore, someone who doesn't even have a profile picture. I just ignored the message and continued browsing on my phone. About 30 minutes later, though, I got another message. "What's wrong? You don't want to talk to me?" At this point, I knew it really wasn't a spam message. I thought maybe it was someone I did know or something, so I responded back, "I'm sorry, do I know you?" I never received a reply to that message, so I figured that maybe they just had the wrong person. A few days later, though, I received another message on Twitter from the same person asking me if I'd like to meet in person sometime for coffee or drinks. I'm sorry, but I don't even know who you are. I think you might have the wrong person or something." Then they proceeded to send me a message saying how I was the most beautiful woman and they would love to meet me in person, that I looked so interesting. I figured this was just some random creeper and decided to block them. Finally, a few weeks passed by without further incident. Again, I was browsing through Twitter when I saw I'd received another message. "Why did you block me? I really like you. I really want to meet you." Needless to say, I was officially freaked out now. I had no idea who this guy was. I'm pretty self-sufficient when it comes to weird stuff like this. I can usually handle it on my own. I never really alert my husband to anything unless it's absolutely necessary. I messaged them back, saying again, "I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. You must have the wrong person or something. Please don't message me again." I was pretty sure I'd blocked the guy in the first place. I don't know how they'd managed to message me again. Another few weeks passed by without incident, until one day I opened up Twitter once more and had 10 messages, all from the same person. "Why won't you talk to me? I really liked you. I think we'll have a great time hanging out together. Please answer." I again blocked this user and had no intentions of ever talking to them. I eventually started receiving messages daily from different accounts, begging and pleading for me to just respond. I didn't know what to do now, so I told my husband all about it. He said not to worry though, probably just some creepy guy. He advised setting my account to private, so I did so. Little did I know this would only make things even worse. I had my Twitter and Facebook accounts linked so I could share content between them. Unfortunately, at this point my Twitter account got hacked, which meant they had my Facebook as well. All I could think was that it must be this creep, because who else would hack my Twitter and Facebook accounts like this? That's when I started to get a little scared, because my Facebook account had always been fully private and had a lot of information about me and my family, where we lived and all sorts of things. Another couple of weeks passed by though, and nothing really happened. I changed all of my information pretty much immediately after it happened, and even deleted my Twitter account. I disabled my Facebook too. Since nothing had happened since then, I went and decided to reactivate my Facebook account. I really enjoyed communicating with family and keeping everyone up to date with our busy lives, and I wasn't going to let some random stranger ruin that. One day though, I received a message on Facebook from someone with the name John Smith. Again, no profile picture, and all their content was blocked, so I couldn't really see them, only this message. This time the message was different. There was no content in the message. It was just a picture of me picking up my son from school, taken from the parking lot. I was terrified and also angry. I was on the defensive. Now at this point, it wasn't just a picture of me in some random place. This was my son's school. What monster would do something like this? I alerted the school and the police immediately. I told my husband. We were all very scared. My dad at the time was a cop, though he's long since retired now. Thankfully, he had a lot of connections with different police departments around the area. They patrolled around my house 24/7 for a good 2 months, and nothing happened during that time. It's been some time since this incident happened, and I haven't had anything else happen to me. To this day, it terrifies me though, that somehow some random person online found me and my family, was able to hack into my accounts, and find out where I lived. We've moved since then. My son goes to a different school as well, and we live in a different state altogether. Needless to say that while social media is pretty great, it also has its dark sides. The fact that anyone can get access to anything you do all on a little computer if they're tech savvy enough is pretty crazy. Stay safe out there in this digital age we live in. I really regret creating my Twitter account. It was just out of peer pressure, really. My name is Tori and I'm 17. This happened to me about 5 weeks ago, and it's only just stopped. No matter what I do, I can't bring myself to look at my phone or answer a text back without wanting to scream. Before all of this, I had a somewhat acceptable social life and was blissfully unaware of how important it was to have a Twitter as a teenager. All of my friends seemed to have one, and after them persuading me over and over into signing up, I did so. Immediately, all my friends started to follow me, and I was happy for the first 2 days of having this account. It was very quiet at first, but then he started following me. I have no clue how he found me or how he knew me at all, but this guy would just not leave me alone. When it was finally time to start going back to school, I had this fear that somehow this guy would find me and hurt me. Anyway, there was this boy at my school who had an apparent infatuation with me. This was according to not only my best friend, but also him himself. Let's call him Jimmy. Jimmy was this tall, lanky guy who easily towered over my measly 5'4" height. He was the typical nerd, often a target of the meatheads in the football team. He was in most of my classes and shared the same lunch period with me. Jimmy always sat alone, though, and never really interacted with anyone. One day, I decided to sit down with him and try to make some conversation. "Hi, I'm Tori. I'm in most of your classes." I made an awkward laugh and he looked up at me and stared. Now that I had a closer look at him, he had these really beautiful emerald green eyes and dark brown hair. I have to admit, I didn't find him horrible looking at all. There was something about the vibe he gave off, though, that didn't settle right with me. That should have been the first sign for me to leave, but I was a sucker for people with problems being bullied. I knew how that felt, so I wanted to help. I shrugged it off and let it go, thinking he just needed a friend, someone to practice human interaction with. "Yeah, I know who you are," Jimmy replied with a gravelly voice. It almost sounded like he never spoke, which I guess isn't very surprising. "Okay then," I replied. "I was wondering, do you want to be lab partners during our next chemistry class?" I attempted to continue this already dying conversation, but he simply nodded, then went back to drawing. After that, I left the table to go back and sit with my friends. They, of course, began immediately interrogating me on who this guy was I was talking to. The entire time, I could feel his eyes boring into the back of my head. Since then, I tried to talk to him a bit more, but it seemed my attempts were always in vain. A few days later, I was at home when my phone started to vibrate. I checked and it was a Twitter notification saying someone had just started to follow me. I checked to see who it was. All the bio said was "in love," and for a profile picture, it was Jimmy, my chemistry partner Jimmy. I was honestly a bit creeped out that he'd found my account without me telling him, and a bit uneasy about his bio message as well. I could only hope he wasn't referring to me. Regardless if he was, though, I didn't mind much. I was happy all in all. I set my phone down, but before I could even walk away, my phone went off again. It said I had a new tweet from Jimmy. I looked at it. He just said, "Isn't she gorgeous?" It was a picture of a girl's back. I thought that was real weird, but I didn't want to be mean. I tweeted back, "Sweet," or something like that. After this thing sort of went on for 2 weeks or so, Jimmy would just not stop staring at me. He seemed to always pop out of nowhere, even when I was leaving my house or the school bathroom. Not to mention his constant tweets about the girl he was in love with. He never showed her face. It seemed like every time I turned around, Jimmy was nearby. Before I could tell him to go away, my phone would vibrate and it would be another tweet from Jimmy. Eventually, I received a message I really regretted reading. "You're too beautiful for your own good." The picture was of me at that very moment. It all clicked together at once. The backside pictures of the girl, why he was everywhere I was. He was following me, and those were all pictures of myself. I spun on my heels and began to walk away, but I heard hard footsteps behind me. I made myself run faster towards my destination. Eventually, the steps took a different turn, but I didn't dare to look back. I made it down to the police station and showed them the tweets. They sent 2 officers to my house, while the desk officer told my parents. When they came, we were just about to leave when I saw the 2 other officers restraining a boy. I stood there in fear because it was Jimmy. Apparently, they'd found him hiding in my backyard on the oak tree, specifically hiding in a branch near my window, waiting for me to come home. God knows what he wanted to do to me. I hadn't heard or seen him since, and I deleted my account soon after. Although this was fairly recent, I wanted my story to be heard, and now that I've shared it, I feel a little bit better about the whole situation. Now, this is a short but very freaky experience I had a few years ago on Twitter. I've never been a very big Twitter user. In fact, I've never been big on Twitter, Facebook, or anything of the sort. I've seen my parents and friends use social accounts for the worst of reasons, such as cheating on their significant other. I guess it's given me a bad view of these social websites. Well, one day I had logged on to look up a social account for John Carpenter after reading a few articles on his old movies. I thought it would be cool to see if he was on there, and maybe give his public figure page a follow. I could have just typed his name in, sure, but I wanted to play around with the keywords and see what might come up, get a little surprise. I ended up typing in occult and seeing a weird profile picture of some dead and bloodied animal. I definitely strayed too far away from what I was originally searching for. Of course, my morbid curiosity told me I should click on it and see what this was all about, though. I did so. I honestly have no idea how Twitter hadn't banned this account yet. It was named Burming Tanaka Fischels. They had 0 followers and 0 follows, so maybe that's how they'd flew under the radar. Still though, if they weren't interested in being social, why were they on Twitter at all? Better yet, each tweet was a picture with a little bit of text. The pictures were always photos of animals that looked like they'd been crushed or beaten to death with some blunt weapon. It was disgusting. The most recent one was a squirrel that no longer resembled a squirrel at all, with a text that said, "So hard to catch." There was another one that was a parrot that looked like it had exploded from the inside out. Real birds aren't so different inside. The thing that really made me want to throw up was when I found a post of a puppy. I don't even want to describe this one. It just makes my heart sink thinking about it. The text on this one read, "Screams like children." These disgusting tweets scrolled down for ages and ages. I couldn't believe the sheer amount of defenseless animals this person had killed and posted for no reason. I started to get scared. I wondered if I would stumble upon the body of a person sooner or later. I didn't know what else to do but click the report button over and over. I closed out of my computer. I needed some air and time for myself. What a sick bastard. This guy deserved to be crushed too. I did my best to forget what I'd seen, but a few days later I decided to copy the link to that account and report it to the police as well. When I tried to find that profile again after though, it was gone. Probably banned because I'd reported him. That wasn't good enough for me though. I should have called the police first. Whoever this was deserved far more than just being banned from a social account. Unfortunately, that's not how it turned out in the end. Are you ready for one of the most unbelievable sounding stories you've ever heard? It just happens to be one of the most disturbing moments in my life, too. After this experience, I started to read a lot about glitch in the matrix type things. I have no idea what this would fall under, but all in all, it was freaking terrifying. Before going to sleep one night, I was laying down in bed. I would always open up Twitter on my smartphone at these times and browse the various tweets of people I followed. I enjoyed all the funny accounts and reading memes, so most of the people I followed were never serious at all. Needless to say, when I saw a completely black picture pop up in my Twitter feed with no corresponding text at all, I was a bit caught off guard. That certainly wasn't funny. I clicked on the picture to make sure I wasn't just seeing part of it or something in preview. Sure enough, the picture remained all black. I tapped back to go back to my feed, and suddenly my phone crashed. That really pissed me off. Last I'd checked, the battery was at 50%. I started my phone back up immediately, but it had to reload all the settings again. I had to wait 30 minutes or so, as each and every application and setting was reset one by one. I'd only had this happen once before in my last phone, when the battery got fried. It caused the system to fail. That was definitely irritating. This time around though, nothing should have caused the phone to do that. This was a pretty new device. I waited, and when it finally turned back on, I immediately went back to Twitter. I did not open that picture again, but I wanted to see who had posted it. I was ready to unfollow whoever this was. When I found the post in my feed again, I noticed the user seemed to not have a name at all. I didn't even know Twitter allowed that. This username was simply an @ symbol with no text after it all. My curiosity got the better of me, so I went to their profile. Everything there was blank as well. No information, no text on each tweet of a black picture, nothing. I noticed there was no following or follow button. I didn't even see the gear icon. What the hell was going on here? My screen died again. My damn phone crashed. At this point, I was officially weirded out, so I plugged in my powered-down phone on its charger and placed it down on the nightstand. I went to sleep. In the following morning, I unplugged my phone to check my stuff as usual, but it had turned itself on in the middle of the night. It was already at the home screen. Not only that, I saw I had over 99 unread texts during the night. I felt my eyes squint in confusion. I opened up my text messenger. Each of the over 100 messages were all from a numberless person that simply showed up as the @ sign. This is when my heart started to pound. I hesitantly clicked the conversation to pull up these texts. They were all the same. Each one read, "Hello, Henry." I threw my phone on the side table and left it there. I'd rather the battery drain for good than pick that thing up again. You might be thinking I'm overreacting to what might have just been a weird set of circumstances or glitches. I'd thrown my phone because my name isn't Henry. Henry is a nickname I gave to my imaginary friend. I'd had them maybe 10 years earlier. It was a name I'd never spoken out loud to anyone, not even my parents. Every time I played with Henry, I would greet him in my head by saying, "Hello, Henry." I have no idea what happened that day, but I haven't browsed my Twitter feed since then. I still feel a deep sense of unease when I try to think about it. I guess as most things in life, Twitter should be used cautiously. It's terrifyingly easy for sinister people to mess with you.